Chapter 49. Hearing Tang Yuan's words, Qin Hu felt as though his soul had left his body and cold sweat broke out all over his body. Oh my God! This is truly a case of walking in the middle of the night and encountering a ghost. Anyone would understand that this kid was just falsely accusing them. Yet, what he said was the truth. Son of a bitch, this is the worst. If his son were to be brought back and say something that he should not say, the Tang family has quite a number of smart people. Jun Xia smiled evilly as he observed the situation from the side. Seeing Qin Hu's face suddenly turn pale and his eyes evasive, Jun Xia could not help but feel puzzled. At best, Fatty Tang's words were just a way to get more face and benefits. Was there a need for Qin Hu to be so panicked? No matter what, he was still a clan leader. Although Northern City Clan was the weakest amongst the 6 great clans, as the clan leader, Qin Hu should not be such a good-for-nothing, right? Truth be told, for Qin Hu, if he could use this matter to make friends with the Tang family, it would be a great blessing. However, looking at his conduct, he seemed to have a guilty conscience. Why? Stop. Guilty conscience? When he thought of this, Jun Xia's gaze when he looked at Qin Hu immediately became profound, and he immediately started calculating in his heart. My son was rude, Da Xiao is right to teach him a lesson. I wonder if you can allow me to bring my son back to recuperate from his injuries before sending him to your mansion for Da Xiao to teach him a lesson. Naturally, since my son has frightened eldest young master and your esteemed friend, this Qin will definitely compensate you. I will definitely satisfy eldest young master. Qin Hu was after all a clan leader. Although he had become a frightened bird after the incident last time, his many years of experience had not been easy for him. Thus, he was able to quickly recover. With a smile on his face, he proposed a compromise. Tang Yuan gave a harumph and said, I would like to see how your Northern City Clan will compensate him. By saying that, he had already indicated that he would not pursue the matter any further. Fatty Tang was also a bachelor. Now that he had gained face, it would depend on the benefits. Qin Hu was also a veteran, so he could naturally tell. He was overjoyed and thanked Da Xiao, saying, Thank you very much for showing mercy and magnanimity, Da Xiao. In the future, I, Qin, will definitely pay a visit to thank Da Xiao for his great kindness. Tang Yuan nodded and looked at Jun Xia. I'm fine, but your son just scolded Jun Sun Xiao. As long as third young master doesn't blame him, you can leave. Jun Sun Xiao. Qin Hu suddenly thought of Jun Mo Xia's name. Tang Yuan had displayed such an attitude towards the third young master Jun. Apart from the infamous Jun Mo Xia, there didn't seem to be a second one in the entire capital. It was just like how the so-called top students who scored full marks in an exam-oriented education were nothing compared to the well-trained elites of society once they abandoned their words. Just like a baby who had just been weaned off his mother's milk. It seemed that no matter which plane it was, this was the same. It's just that I didn't expect Tang Yuan to have such insight. It's really unexpected. Just as he was having a great time listening to Zhang Xian's words, he didn't expect the brat to suddenly change the topic. The difference between heaven and earth, north and south, was simply too shocking. Ha! I'm saying that neither of us are good people. Tang Yuan laughed and said, but third young master, no matter how bad we are, in this big capital city, even if we harm people every day, how many people can we harm? Thousands of people are already amazing. But for a spineless person like Xiao Qingsong with a belly full of evil tricks, if he were to really be released as an official, he would harm countless people. Furthermore, after he is done, he can go to other places to cause more trouble. As long as the imperial court doesn't behead him, he can continue to cause trouble. But by the time he is beheaded, who knows how many people he has harmed. Comparing us to him, who is more of a plaything? At this point, Tang Yuan suddenly became somewhat indignant. That's why I want to humiliate these shameless things to death. What gifted scholars, go fuck yourself. As long as they call themselves gifted scholars in front of me, I will beat them up. Every single one of them will die. As long as they fall into my hands, those hypocrites will never be able to get out of this predicament. Jun Xia laughed heartily. Not bad, not bad. Fatty Tang, this is the first time I've heard you speak so happily. Well said. Just based on these words, I propose a toast to you. This toast was a sincere toast from Jun Xia. Fatty's words had deeply touched Jun Xia's heart. Looking at Jun Xia's 2 lives, there were at most 2 or 3 people who could receive a toast from Jun Xia. For Fatty to be able to drink such a toast, it was really a great fortune. To receive a toast from Jun Xia, in this world, Tang Yuan was the first person. After this toast, it meant that Jun Xia had already recognized Tang Yuan as a person. Although this person was a silk pants, he was a true villain with a true temperament. Jun Xia had always done things as he pleased. If he found someone pleasing to the eye, even if that person was condemned by 1,000 people, Jun Xia would still share a toast with him. If he found someone displeasing to the eye, the whole world would call him a saint. Even Jun Xia would not spare him a glance. At this moment, Fatty Tang was completely unaware of the value of this toast. Naturally, he would not have thought that because of Jun Xia's toast, he was able to escape several calamities. In several life and death situations, he was saved by Jun Xia. But this was a story for another time. Tang Yuan raised his cup and drained it in one gulp. His small eyes were round. This young master knows himself well. I don't look likable. I like to gamble and fight. I bully people to relieve my boredom. When I see a pretty girl, I will flirt a few times to relieve my boredom. I have the heart and the guts to do so. I am a bad person, but I am bad in the open. As the saying goes, everyone loves beauty. Everyone is willing to take a second look at a pretty girl. Why the fuck wouldn't I let them see my pretty face? If a fucking good girl saw me looking at her like that, she would definitely hide. If I met such a person, I would naturally not go up and look for trouble. After being looked at by me, she would still stand there waiting for me to take liberties with her. How could she be a good person? But as the rumors spread, I actually became a heinous criminal. As for those hypocrites, they would immediately lower their heads when they see a pretty girl. They would put on a dignified and refined demeanor. But when the girl turned around, they would immediately stare at the girl's butt and drool. They would secretly use their nefarious methods. Bah! This is a gifted scholar. A gifted scholar on a bird. This kind of gifted scholar, I can't wait to kill them all one by one. After a round of discussion, Fatty Tang was in a depressed mood. He raised his cup again and again, his mouth gushing unceasingly. His hands also did not stop drinking. Even though the alcohol was light, it was a pity that when the alcohol entered his stomach, the change in quantity led to a change in quality. In the end, he was drunk. His eyes became misty and his huge head swayed back and forth. He could no longer support himself and fell into the fish soup bowl in front of him with a bang. He was scalded to the point that he cried out, but he also sobered up because of the scalding. Jun Xia looked at Tang Yuan, whose face was covered in fish soup and cut a sorry figure. Suddenly, he had a thought, since I want to get rid of this pair of heartless father and son, why don't I just let the Tang family handle this matter? With old Master Tang's gloominess from losing his precious treasure, he would rather kill 1,000 wrongly than let one wrongly go. Moreover, my current strength is not good enough. The people that I trained are temporarily not of use. If I let my grandfather take action, it would cause too much of a commotion. That's right. I'll do it this way. As long as I do this, I'll succeed. Pfft. Killing a bunch of trash is not a big deal. The reason why I did not let the Jun family take action was because Jun Xia had another concern. The Xian Dan had already become a big maelstrom. Although Qin Hu's expression could not be certain that it was because of the Xian Dan's panic, but if it was related to the Xian Dan, then the Jun family's action of exterminating the Northern City clan would be the same as revealing that they were hiding something. They would become the target of public criticism. On the other hand, the Tang family was the exact opposite. They did not have any such concerns. Fatty Tang, since you have eaten and drunk your fill, let us find a quiet place to talk to your brother. I think the Red Joy House is a very quiet place. What do you think? Jun Xia was obviously a lecherous devil, but he still wanted to put on a sanctimonious act. Red Joy House. It really is a quiet and good place, wahahaha. Tang Yuan's eyes lit up and his drunkenness disappeared by half. His face was filled with an unbearable itch. Ha ha ha, third young master, you really are my bosom friend. Let's go, let's hurry up. It just so happens that I have been in a bad mood for the past few days. I need to find a quiet place. After saying that, he stood up impatiently, causing his fat belly to drop down onto his thighs. Jun Xia looked at Tang Yuan with a straight face, his heart feeling somewhat puzzled. It was hard to imagine what would happen to this fellow once he arrived at the Red Joy House. Could it be that he would have to lift his belly up with both hands? Otherwise, it would be quite difficult to handle. What a pain in the ass. Chapter 51. The two of them swaggered down the stairs. It was not that Jun Xia did not want to explain himself. Rather, Jun Xia's senses had been telling him that someone was spying on him in the restaurant. That aura made Jun Xia feel very uncomfortable. That was why he suggested going to Red Joy House, the quiet place. After Jun Xia and Tang Yuan had gone down the stairs, a voice came out from the private room of the restaurant. Brotherly, they have left. What do you think? A gentle voice replied in a calm tone. Tang Yuan is someone with some experience. However, that is all there is to it. He is too much of a debauchee. Even if this kind of person has bad intentions, he will only jump out in the open to go against us. So, we do not need to consider him. However, that Jun Moxie, his recent behavior seems to be different from what the rumors say. There was a thick sense of doubt in his voice. Oh. Brotherly means to say, there is something wrong with that Jun-san kid? The first person asked in a puzzled tone. But this fellow is still as frivolous and greedy as ever. Didn't you see him extorting Qin Hu just now? This fellow's appetite is too big. He actually wants Qin Hu to hand over the gambling house of Northern City Clan to him. Ha, what a fool's dream. Is he not afraid of choking to death? There are some things that you do not know. These few days, Jun Moxie has been acting strangely. That is not all. There is indeed something strange about this matter. Let Li Yan pay attention to this. Let him tell Qin Hu to go to Jun Moxie's place tomorrow afternoon. Do not forget a single word that Jun Moxie said. After that, immediately sort out the information and give it to me. Do not miss out on anything. I need to think about it carefully. The second person was deep in thought as he tapped his fingers on the table. Thinking back to Jun Xia's behavior earlier, he finally shook his head. From his words to his actions, he had the face of a typical debauchee. Why did I feel that something was wrong? Am I being too sensitive? No, it is better to be safe than sorry. For the next few days, try to find a way to meet up with Jun Moxie. That, Brotherly slowly said, there's news that this kid has been training at home as if he doesn't care about his life, and he's very good at talking. I keep feeling that something's not right. I want to see if it's true. Me? Meet Jun Moxie. That person immediately spoke in a reluctant tone, as if asking him to see Jun Moxie was a very embarrassing thing, and he was ashamed to sit in the same room as that foppish young master. You're still so arrogant and conceited. This arrogance will kill you. That, Brotherly raised his head. He had delicate features. It was Li Yuran. He said this indifferently, but the person on the other side suddenly broke out in a cold sweat. Yes, I'll arrange it when we get back. Yes, I'll be watching from the sidelines. You must be pissed off by them today, right? Jun Xia casually hinted. But I am unhappy. Damn it, this father and son pair is a pair of trash, so annoying. If not for the fact that there are so many bad things happening at home, I would really want to kill him. Tomorrow, when he comes to give me money, I will not even meet him. Tang Yuan shook his head. Third young master, hurry up and tell me the plan. Why are you bringing up these two pieces of trash? Isn't this the plan? Tang Yuan, not many people know about the burglary in your house, right? Jun Xie smiled. There must be quite a number of people who know about this. The burglary is not a big deal. However, no one knows exactly what was lost. If news of a level 9 Xian Dan being burgled in one's own house were to spread out, wouldn't our Tang family become the laughing stock? To the outside world, we are just chasing after escaped slaves and searching for enemies, Tang Yuan mumbled. He was getting more and more confused as to what medicine Jun Xie was trying to pull. But, according to my speculation, Qin who knows about this. Jun Xie swayed his crossed legs. Just now, did you notice? When you said that the Tang family was burgled, Qin whose expression was one of panic. It would appear that he was sweating profusely. Truth be told, Qin whose expression had only changed slightly. There was no reaction on his face. As for the sweating, that was all but non-existent. However, Fatty Tang was not a meticulous person. He could not hear it, let alone remember it. You mean to say? Qin who is related to this matter? Tang Yuan suddenly sat up straight. His small eyes were perfectly round as he stared at Jun Mo Xie. The matter that the young master Jun was talking about was of great importance. Therefore, he couldn't help but feel suspicious. In fact, the young master Tang would have believed Jun Mo Xie if he had said that there was such a thing. Fatty, how could you take things so hard? Regardless of whether he is related to this matter or not, as long as you feel that he is related to this matter, it will be fine. You just need to go back and tell your grandfather that Qin whose Northern City clan might be related to this matter. That way, regardless of the result of the investigation, whether Northern City clan is related to this matter or not, the pressure on you will be greatly reduced, no? Jun Xie gave an evil smile. Besides, we are not wrongly accusing him. The panic on Qin whose face back then cannot be faked. If there is nothing to feel guilty about, why would he panic? However, if my grandfather investigates, what if Qin who is not the one who did it? Wouldn't that be self-defeating? Tang Yuan hesitated. Chapter 52. Even if that's the case, didn't you do your best for this matter? Seeing that you're willing to admit your mistakes and even help with the investigation, I believe that the old man won't be so harsh on you anymore, right? Besides, as long as you insist on it, Qin who may be a major suspect. With the old man's current urgency, he will definitely make a move to get to the bottom of this matter. As long as the old man makes a move, it will be like a thunderbolt. At that time, it won't matter whether Qin who did it or not. Moreover, the Tang family will also gain the reputation of getting rid of evil for the people. So, why not? Continue to tempt. You're right, my grandfather really values that thing. As long as he knows a little bit of information, I'm afraid that he will immediately make a move. Tang Yuan pondered, however, this matter still requires a surefire follow-up plan. Otherwise, my days will still be very difficult. Good. Let's do it this way. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that this plan was wonderful. Tang Yuan couldn't wait any longer. Third young master, how about I ask them to send you to Red Joy Brothel to have some peace and quiet? Otherwise, if the old man finds out that I went to a brothel after hearing such news, I will definitely be in a worse state. Indeed, there's no time to lose. You go about your business, and your brother is busy. How can I still have the mood to go to a brothel? I'll just have some fun. Jun Xie smiled. Fatty Tang, congratulations, you're about to regain your freedom. Tang Yuan grinned like a Maitreya Buddha. Same to you, brother. It's all thanks to your guidance. After declining Tang Yuan's good intentions of escorting him back to his mansion, Jun Xia immediately got off the carriage and the two went their separate ways. Watching Fatty Tang's carriage roll away, Jun Xia's mouth curled into a smile. If the Tang family really makes a move, what should I do next? The Xian Dan is in my hands, but I don't know how to use it. How can I solve this problem? Should I consider spreading the news of this matter to attract a few top-notch experts to the Tianxiang city? The world was so big, and there were so many talented people. There would definitely be someone who knew about it, right? However, it was better to hide this matter from Grandpa and third uncle. If they knew, with Grandpa's integrity and third uncle's integrity, what if they proposed to send them back to the Tang family? Or, if he spilled the beans or something, he would be in big trouble. It was better to give the Xian Dan to the third uncle or grandpa without anyone knowing, and then explain it to them. Well, what was done could not be undone. In that case, everyone would be able to make a fortune silently, right? Not to mention at this critical juncture, it was rare to see this fellow on a normal day. Right now, he probably can't wait to avoid me, but he actually has the guts to come to me. Could it be that I've scolded him so much that he's gone mad? He said, tell him to come in immediately. After thinking for a while, he said, bring the iron abacus here. As soon as Tang Yuan entered the room, he saw the huge iron abacus lying horizontally in front of him. Immediately, his face turned bitter. What filthy matter is it now? Old Master Tang was furious. He asked, at the same time pointing his chin at the iron abacus, indicating for Tang Yuan to kneel on it before replying. He understood his grandson's character very well. If it wasn't something that he couldn't solve, he would never dare to disturb him. Tang Yuan's face turned bitter, and he knelt on the ground in grievance. His belly hit the ground with a loud and clear sound. What's the matter? Old Master Tang looked at his grandson's belly, which was hanging on the ground, and became even angrier. Can't you lose some weight? Do you really think that you're a pig? Tang Yuan had come back in high spirits to hand in his contribution, but he didn't expect to be treated like this. He immediately drooped his head, looked at his belly, and mumbled, I don't want to be so fat. After being scolded by you guys for the past few days, I can't even eat. I only drink water, but I still put on weight. Hurry up and tell me about your matter. Old Master Tang was both angry and happy. Don't talk about such useless things. Did you get into trouble again? Grandfather, Tang Yuan was excited. Thinking about how he was going to follow Jun Moxie's instructions and escape from this painful life, he couldn't help but stand up. Ignoring Old Master Tang's angry expression, he said, Grandfather, I think I've found a clue to the Xian Dan that our family lost. Oh. Old Master Tang was just about to get angry and have this kid kneel down again when he heard those words. His eyes lit up and he no longer cared. Hurry up and tell me, what is the clue? Ever since the Xian Dan was stolen, your grandson has been worried day and night, blaming myself endlessly. These past few days, I have racked my brains, poured my heart and soul into it, pondered over it, and worked hard. Tang Yuan's expression was one of sincerity, as though he had turned over a new leaf. Stop. Stop, stop, stop. Old Master Tang felt a headache coming on. Do you want to kneel on that thing before you are willing to talk seriously? Hurry up. He pointed at the iron abacus. Old Master Tang was immediately shocked. Today, I went out to search for clues, only to encounter the Northern City Clan's clan leader, Qin Hu, his son, Qin Xiaobao, who was using his power to bully the innocent people. Your grandson could not help but feel indignant at the injustice. According to your teachings, your grandson's chivalrous heart cannot bear to see such filthy things. Thus, with my heart soaring to the clouds, my feet dancing with the east wind, I acted righteously, helping the weak. Seeing injustice on the road, I pulled out my sword to help, chivalrous and righteous, for the country and the people. Not long after that, that Qin who actually dared to bring his men over to find trouble, he truly did not know the difference between life and death. When he discovered that it was me, he actually panicked to the extreme. Fatty Tang's ability to blow his own trumpet is truly extraordinary. The words that come out of his mouth come out one after another. Nonsense. Who does that Qin who think he is? After provoking our Tang family, how could he not panic? That is the clue you were talking about? Old Master Tang snorted. What kind of bullshit clue is that? To think that I would actually put so much hope in the words of this bastard grandson, I am really. Listening to this series of boasting, Old Master Tang felt a headache coming on and his face filled with black lines. Grandfather, if Qin who had been nervous right from the start, it would naturally be reasonable. However, in the beginning, he did not show any signs of panic. However, when I mentioned the matter of our family being robbed, Qin whose face changed greatly, as though he had encountered a ghost. Tang Yuan had the appearance of a wise man as he carefully analyzed the situation. The outside world only knows that our Tang family has had their gold, silver, and jewels stolen. Due to the issue of face, they chased after the thieves. However, this matter has nothing to do with Qin Hu. Why would he be so shocked? Your grandson feels that there is something fishy about this. Who knows, it might have been done by this bastard. Grandpa's opinion of me has changed, waha. The reason why Jun Xia planned this matter was because he could not stand the sight of the Northern City clan. Since the evil prince could not stand it, he would naturally not let them off easy. However, he had to do it himself. Thus, he pushed the blame onto the Tang family. Tang Yuan accepted this matter for the sake of living a more comfortable life. He did not want to be like a mouse in his own house. Old Master Tang accepted this matter only because he was holding on to a sliver of hope. However, a sliver of hope was better than none. At the same time, he could also use the name of doing the people a favor. Regardless of the outcome, as long as the crimes committed by the Northern City clan were made public, the reputation of the Tang family would rise to another level. At the very least, there would be many voices of support from the people. Besides, the Northern City clan was the weakest of the 6 great clans. They did not have any support from the upper echelons. Making a move against them would be a great surprise. Of course, if there was any news, it would be a pleasant surprise. However, regardless of whether it was Jun Xia, Tang Yuan or Old Master Tang, none of them knew that this operation was truly a lucky hit. Additionally, it was a surprise attack that caught them off guard. All the consequences would depend on tonight. As for Li Yuren's plan to have Qin Hu send gifts to test Jun Xia, it had only just reached Qin Hu's ears. However, after this thunderous operation by Old Master Tang, he reckoned that he would once again meet with an inexplicable and unfathomable end. Moreover, it would be a head-on blow without any warning. Moreover, the reason for this was because of 2 debauches. One of them wanted to mess with someone, while the other wanted to get rid of his own awkward situation. These 2 selfish debauches had coincidentally foiled Li Yuran's plan, which had always been flawless. Could this be heaven's will? Jun Xia slowly walked along the road. The shop of the Divine Arms Collection was already before him. However, a luxurious horse carriage with embroidered curtains and tassels was parked before the main entrance. The emblem on the horse carriage was that of 2 crossed swords. This was the exclusive emblem of the Dugu family. This was a member of the Dugu family. Jun Xia was slightly surprised. However, he did not mind it and continued to walk in. If it was the debauchee Jun Moxie, he might fear the Dugu family. However, why would Jun Xia care about the Dugu family? Young master, may I ask what kind of weapon you are looking for? Just as he entered the shop, a middle-aged man came forward to greet him. There were many young masters like Jun Xia in the capital city. Young masters like these would usually bring along a magnificent sword. However, those were only for decorative purposes and could not be used in combat. Thus, the practicality of such a weapon would be greatly reduced. I am not looking for a ready-made weapon. I just want to ask, do you have any winter iron here? The price is not a problem. Jun Xia smiled and said with a look of wealth. The man's eyes lit up. He thought that this person had the air of a debauchee. Could it be that he was an expert? He looked at Jun Xia for a while and said, Young master, so you are an expert. However, our shop does not have any winter iron at the moment. That thing is too rare. I wonder if 100-tempered steel will do. Jun Xia laughed and said, if it is really 100-tempered, it is possible. However, the 100-tempered steel that you speak of, is it really 100-tempered steel? The middle-aged man looked embarrassed and said, Young master is indeed an expert. I naturally do not dare to deceive you. Although most of the 100-tempered steel in our shop is only around 10-tempered steel, the quality of the steel is not bad. In the entire world, it is one of the best. Only 10-tempered steel. I understand. Then, do you have mysterious iron? Jun Xia sighed. How unlucky. Was this place 10,000 years behind Earth? There was no hope in relying on their forging skills. Let's see if there were any special metals. But when it came to metals, mysterious iron was the best choice. We don't have any. The middle-aged man wiped his sweat. Why was this guy asking about things that could only be found by chance? He suddenly thought of something and said, however, a piece of meteoric iron just arrived a few days ago. I wonder if young master is interested. Meteoric iron? Jun Xia's eyes lit up. Take me to see it. Originally, when he asked about mysterious iron, he was just hoping for the best. Although there was no such thing, now he unexpectedly received news about meteoric iron. Although mysterious iron was rare, meteoric iron was even more difficult to find. His luck was still very good. Following behind the middle-aged man, Jun Xia passed through the shop and walked towards the warehouse at the back. Before he reached the warehouse, he heard a clear voice coming from inside. Okay. I want this meteoric iron. The owner of that voice was one of the few people that Jun Moxie avoided the most in this world, the Dugu family, Dugu Xiaoyi. Why did he have to run into this girl everywhere? How strange. Anxious, Jun Xia stepped through the door. Without waiting for anyone to speak, he said first, ha ha ha. Miss Dugu, we are really fated to meet here. It's you. Jun Moxie. Dugu Xiaoyi turned her head, her beautiful eyes sparkling, and she puffed out her chest. Jun Moxie, aren't you too strange? Why do I have to meet a prodigal like you here? You're just like a ghost. How strange. Suddenly, she jumped over and asked fiercely, Jun Moxie, are you purposely following me? It's time to rush up the rankings again. Chapter 54. Miss Dugu, don't you think too highly of yourself? Jun Xia couldn't help but poke at her, and continued to fight back. If I want to find someone, I'll go to the Rouge brothel. There are so many beautiful girls there, and they're so gentle. Hiss. Dugu Xiaoyi's pretty face turned pale with anger, and her slender jade-like hand twisted his arm. Her pretty eyes were wide open, and she gritted her teeth. What? Did you say? What? A gentleman uses his mouth, not his fists. Jun Xia said righteously, and then his face turned bitter. Big sister, be gentle, your slender jade-like hands don't get tired. Humph, speak. What evil intentions do you have by following me? Speak quickly, or else I can't guarantee that you'll be able to keep your ears. Dugu Xiaoyi's hand didn't loosen the slightest, and she didn't want to let him off. Jun Xia knew that this girl was someone who would do what she said, and was never afraid of causing trouble. His eyes turned, and he laughed. Miss Dugu, don't you want to buy some iron? How about, let this little brother pay for you? You? Dugu Xiaoyi suddenly remembered that this guy had won so many good things last time, but he wasn't willing to share a single one with her. Her heart suddenly felt unbalanced, and she couldn't help but raise her eyebrows, and angrily said, "You should be the one paying. You still haven't given me the money we won together. Last time, without this misluck, you won so many good things, so use this to make up for it." After saying that, he suddenly chuckled and gestured with his hands, revealing a pair of cute little canine teeth. "I want to use it to make a short knife, something like this, thin, the kind that can be hidden in the sleeves." Not bad, right? Jun Xie's heart broke out in cold sweat. This girl is too good at bullsh** ting. All she did was ask you to be her witness. Not only did she win 20,000 taels of silver, she even snatched away 100,000 taels worth of banknotes from him. Now, she had unexpectedly become his partner. And all because of her luck. She only needed to forge a small blade, yet she wanted to occupy such a large piece of meteoric iron. What is called recklessly wasting God's gift? This girl is the perfect example. The piece of meteoric iron was approximately the size of 2 basketballs. Its entire body exuded a peculiar color, similar to the special color of aluminium alloys from Jun Xie's past life. However, it appeared to be purer, and there were also irregular marks on its surface. With one look, Jun Xie was sure that the quality of this iron was definitely better than black iron. At this moment, Jun Xie had already made up his mind, regardless of whether it was swindling, kidnapping, or rape, he had to get his hands on this iron. He held it in his hand, spat out a mouthful of saliva, put his finger on his lips, and counted out 90,000 taels of banknotes. He swung it in his hand, and said arrogantly, "Here's 90,000 taels, keep the change." Dugu Xiaoyi watched from the side, and her expression slowly changed from one of amusement to one of disappointment, and then gradually became cold, and finally, a look of disgust appeared on her face. She suddenly had an indescribable feeling in her heart. That day, I thought that he had changed, but now it seems that he is still that rich playboy. Sigh. One handed over the money, and the other handed over the goods. Jun Xie decisively completed the transaction of the 2 large pieces of iron. Now, these 2 valuable pieces of iron were Jun Xie's. Dugu Xiaoyi's face was cold, and she said coldly, "Jun Sunshao, you've paid the money, shouldn't you give me the iron now?" She really regretted it. If she had known that he would still be like this, why did she ask him to pay? He would not have made her unhappy. If she wanted to find someone to pay the bill, from the princes to the sons of the officials, the line would be a few miles long. When would it be Jun Moxie's turn? What a disgrace. But the meteoric iron is hard to come by, so I'll just waste a few more words with him. Good. That's how it should be. Jun Xie laughed. "Miss Dugu, look at these 2 pieces of iron. You want the big one, and I want the small one. What do you think? To be able to pay for Miss Dugu, it's my honor, haha." "What did you say?" Dugu Xiaoyi was just about to take the meteoric iron and leave when she suddenly felt something was wrong. She couldn't help but widen her pretty eyes, and she couldn't believe her ears. "I want the big one. You want the small one. Is he stupid? The small one is the meteoric iron. The big one is the refined steel. Although the quality is good, it's far worse than the meteoric iron. What do I want that ordinary refined steel for?" "Yes." Jun Xie said matter-of-factly, "You see, I'll buy these 2 pieces of scrap iron. I don't need much, just the small one is enough. But the big one is too wasteful for me. As the saying goes, the rouge should be given to the beauty, and the big iron should be given to the beauty. Hee hee, of course it's for you, Miss Dugu." "Ah. Of course, if Miss Dugu thinks it's not enough, then I'll buy another one. It's a few thousand taels, very cheap. I brought a lot of money with me today, why don't I buy a few dozen pieces and hire a carriage to send it to your residence?" Dugu Xiaoyi was so angry that her whole body started to tremble. She finally understood that Jun Moxie's original target was that piece of meteoric iron. However, he was afraid that she would strike first. So, He had offered to pay the bill for her. Now that the money had been settled, he wanted to give her that ordinary piece of refined steel. Chapter 55. Dugu Xiaoyi finally understood that Jun Moxie's target was that piece of meteoric iron. He was afraid that she would strike first, so he offered to pay for her. Now that the transaction was over, he actually wanted to give her that ordinary piece of refined steel. Scrap iron. Find me a few pieces of this scrap iron. Damn you, Jun Moxie. He actually used the excuse of paying for me to try and take that piece of meteoric iron for himself. But I was muddle-headed and didn't make myself clear, Jun Moxie. Dugu Xiaoyi screamed, her pretty eyes opened wide. Do you want to die? I'm innocent. Jun Moxie's face was innocent and rascally. He shrugged and spread out his hands. Miss Dugu, what are you talking about? There are only 2 pieces, and I've already given you the big one. What else do you want? I've already paid for what you wanted to buy, and you're saying that I want to die. I'm innocent. You. Good. Jun Moxie, you've got guts. Don't ever fall into my hands. I'm not done with you. Dugu Xiaoyi's chest was heaving up and down violently. She was so angry that she almost cried. She bit her plump lips and trembled all over. Tears were rolling in her eyes, and finally, they fell like a waterfall. Jun Moxie was a little embarrassed. After all, Dugu Xiaoyi had taken a fancy to it first. He used the excuse of paying for her to act like a rascal and take it for himself. He really felt bad for using such an underhanded method to take advantage of a little girl. He frowned and comforted her. Why are you crying? At most, when I'm making something, I'll make a special knife for you and send it to your house. Is that okay? You call this comforting? Who wants your knife? Dugu Xiaoyi did not know that Jun Xie's words were equivalent to a promise, and thought that Jun Xie was deliberately mocking her. She was so angry that she stamped her feet and finally started sobbing. She felt wronged and said, "This iron is mine." Speaking of which, Dugu Xiaoyi wasn't crying because of that piece of meteoric iron. After all, meteoric iron was precious, but with the Dugu family's strength, it wouldn't be too difficult for them to find it as long as they deliberately searched for it. The real reason Xiaoyi was crying was because of that hateful fellow, Jun Moxie. He had acted like a debauchee, and hadn't even let her finish speaking before he had decisively bought the 2 pieces of meteoric iron. He purposely made the whole thing muddle-headed. Now that the thing was in his hands, he immediately gave it to that piece of trash. He actually made it sound so sanctimonious. You want the big one, I want the small one. Is this something that can be judged by size? Of course, the most infuriating thing was that she had once again misjudged him. She had once again been deceived by his pretense. Tears fell down like pearls from a broken necklace. In his past life, Jun Xie had practiced all sorts of techniques that were fast and ruthless, killing with a single strike. And now, those who were familiarizing themselves with them were no exception. If it was a normal spar, Jun Xie would not be able to display his true strength, so it was not optimistic. In his previous life, when Jun Xie's martial brothers asked him for pointers, he said, "Don't come to me for pointers or spars. I only know how to kill, I don't know how to fight." But against Dugu Xiaoyi, how could he really fight with his life on the line? Regardless of family status or personal temper, Jun Xie would not allow him to kill Dugu Xiaoyi. Moreover, Dugu Xiaoyi was known as the nemesis of fops. She was also a kind-hearted girl who abhorred evil. Moreover, the original Jun Moxie was too much of a bastard. He stood up and looked at the shopkeeper. "Boss, if this meteoric iron is made into a weapon here, how many times can it be refined?" The old man pondered for a while and said, "This meteoric iron has been refined once before to remove the impurities. If we continue to refine it, it can be refined 3 times at most, and it will reach the point where it will be surrounded by cloud patterns. If it is made into a weapon, it will definitely be extremely sharp. Can it cut through iron like mud? Jun Xie muttered. No. The old man grinned and answered straightforwardly. Cut through iron like mud? Little guy, you've heard too many legends, haven't you? Then why do you call it the Book of Godly Weapons? If it can't cut through iron like mud, what kind of divine weapon is it? Jun Xie stared, feeling as if he had been deceived. The old man suddenly felt wronged and cried out, Young master, I'm afraid you've misunderstood. The so-called cutting through iron like mud, that's basically a legendary characteristic of divine weapons. Besides, even if it's a first-class divine weapon, it still needs to be in the right hands to be able to cut through iron like mud. Young master, you said that even an ordinary person can cut through iron like mud. Not to mention this shop, even if you look at the whole world, there is no such thing. Oh. That makes sense. Jun Xie suddenly thought of a saying, wherever true qi reaches, grass and trees will become sharp swords. He couldn't help but shake his head, thinking, bullshit, what's the point of having a sharp sword at that level? You need a sharp sword because you don't have enough martial arts. Forget it, I'll think of a way myself. Jun Xie sighed, asked the waiter to send it to the Jun residence. So it's that guy from the Jun family. No wonder he's such a prodigal. The old man repeatedly complied, wiping away his sweat. Although this debauchee young master is a debauchee, he didn't pester me endlessly today. It's good that you're willing to think of a way yourself, but it's a pity that this big piece of meteoric iron is wasted. However, such a legendary divine weapon had yet to be seen in this world. It's really hard for me to forge it for you. Looking at Jun Xie's back as he left, the old man cursed in his heart, you're just a debauchee, and you want to forge your own blade? If you can really forge it, this old man won't need to walk anymore. Recommended work by Jin Sha Lushui, The Legend of Interstellar Pirates. Jin Sha has written a book called, I'm a Little Devil. It's very well written, everyone can read it if they're interested. When you thought he was going east, he changed direction. When you turned around and chased him west, you found that he was already heading south. This person could be considered as one of the top tracking experts in this world. Within these 2 days, he had actually gone in the wrong direction several times. If not for the fact that Jun Xie's cultivation level was too low, he would have been able to shake this person off on the first day. After making a few mistakes, he was so depressed that he nearly went crazy. He even pulled out a few strands of his beard. There were several times when he wanted to jump out and grab this brat's collar to ask him, what the fuck are you doing wandering around in the middle of nowhere every day? Can't you be a little more honest? Could it be that this debauchee found me? Just as he thought of this, he denied it, looking at this debauchee, how could he find me? It's all because of this kid's actions. As he was thinking about it, he suddenly noticed that Jun Xie who was in front of him had quickened his pace and entered a cosmetics shop. He could not help but spit out in disgust. He thought to himself that this was truly a debauchee, to actually barge into a shop owned by a woman. After waiting for a while, he did not see Jun Xie coming out. Finally, he could not hold it in any longer and rushed over. Sneaking a glance, he did not see Jun Xie's shadow. He could not help but feel depressed. It turns out that this kid went out through the back door. How could I be so stupid? Why did I not think of this? He searched in the direction of the back door like the wind. By the time he was far away, Jun Xie had finally ascertained that the aura that had been paying attention to him had completely disappeared. Only then did he leisurely walk out of the rouge and face powder shop. After politely thanking him, he walked back the way he came, swaggering off. Only a few female employees in the shop stared with their big round eyes. They were speechless. This handsome young master looked quite healthy. Why did he suddenly have diarrhea the moment he entered our shop? And why did he occupy the toilet for so long? We sisters almost couldn't hold it in anymore. The sky gradually darkened and the sun slowly set. It was already dusk. the curtain of night had already opened up its ferocious mouth. Once the afterglow on the horizon disappeared, it would swallow the entire Qiankuan earth in one gulp. Jun Xia walked 2 steps and suddenly turned back. He changed to another path and went in the direction of the cosmetics shop's back door. At the same time, he could not help but laugh secretly in his heart. That guy is probably going to be confused by me today. As the king of assassins and a hunter of the jungle, this is what I am best at. If I can't deal with this idiot from another world, then it would be strange. Kid, compared to me, you are still too inexperienced. Jun Xia's guess was right. Chapter 57. Princess Ling Meng was the emperor's most beloved pearl. If she wanted a star, she would not give him the moon. She treated him like a treasure. If Princess Ling Meng were to be assassinated, who knows how angry and heartbroken the emperor would be. How could these people withstand the emperor's wrath? Jun Xia didn't have time to think. Princess Raimu's carriage was already in front of him. When the 2 palace maids saw Jun Moxie standing in front of them, they couldn't help but look disgusted. They whispered something to the person in the carriage. The person in the carriage said something and suddenly stopped. The curtains of the palanquin were opened, and a beautiful girl dressed in a light yellow palace dress appeared. She looked a little impatient, but she still restrained her temper and asked, Jun Mo Xia, why are you blocking my way today? Blocking your way? Jun Xia was stunned. He looked to his left and right and realized that he was standing in the middle of the road. It was impossible for such a big group to make a detour for him. Moreover, this was the princess's carriage. If that was the case, then he was really blocking her way. What the hell? Jun Xia only knew of the existence of Princess Raimu from Jun Moxie's memory. It was his first time seeing her in person. Now that he saw her, he couldn't help but exclaim in admiration. It was no wonder that Jun Mo Xia could not forget her. This Princess Ling Meng was truly a heavenly beauty, a beauty that could topple the world. Her skin was fair and tender, her eyebrows were curved, and her eyes were like 2 pools of limpid autumn water. She had an oval face, and her black hair was like a waterfall. She exuded a noble and holy aura, but at the same time, she seemed to be above the mortal world. She was fresh and refined, like a lotus flower that had just emerged from the water. Where is Her Royal Highness going? At this moment, Jun Xia realized that the majestic pavilion in front of him was the imperial city. Princess Raimu had just come out from the imperial city, but she was followed by a group of assassins. What did this mean? It seemed a little too strange. After figuring this out, Jun Xia had an urge to run away. With the Jun family's current situation, it was not suitable for them to get involved in the affairs of the imperial family. But looking at the strength of Princess Raimu and her entourage, Jun Xia felt that the possibility of protecting Princess Raimu's life was very small. Such a beauty would probably die in the hands of the assassins soon. Although Jun Xia felt that it was a pity, he didn't feel too reluctant. After all, the most important thing now was to protect himself and his family. Oh, I want to go to the Dugu residence to look for Xiao Yi. Third young master Jun, please let me pass. Princess Ling Meng's face was calm. It turned out that Dugu Xiao Yi had been cheated out of a piece of meteoric iron by Jun Xia. The more she thought about it, the more aggrieved she became. She ran all the way to her best friend, Princess Ling Meng, to complain. But at that time, Princess Raimu was in the Empress's bedroom and did not see it. When Princess Ling Meng returned, she heard that her best sister had come and left in tears. She immediately became nervous, thinking that something big had happened. So, she hastily made arrangements to go to the Dugu family to see what had happened. She wanted to find out what had caused her unruly, adorable, and intelligent sister to be so heartbroken. But, as luck would have it, she met the culprit, Jun Mo Xia. Of course, Princess Raimu was not aware of this. Otherwise, she would have tied this guy up and sent him to the Dugu family. Jun Xia felt a little strange. From this princess, Jun Xia did not feel the slightest bit of a condescending and overbearing royal aura. Instead, he felt very peaceful. It was unusual for a princess of the royal family to have such a peaceful temperament. Yes. In that case, Mo Xia will not disturb you any further. Your Highness, please go ahead. Jun Xia made up his mind to avoid trouble and left. But in the end, he still inadvertently reminded her. He stared at her and said in a deep voice, "Be careful." In fact, Jun Xia felt very strange. Normally, when a princess, especially one who was as pampered as Princess Raimu, was traveling, how could there be so few guards around her? Moreover, there were no experts in the entourage. And at this moment, when she was at her weakest, an assassin came? Could there be such a coincidence in this world? The more he thought about it, the more Jun Xia felt that there was a huge conspiracy hidden in this. A gentleman would not stand under a collapsing wall. An excellent assassin would stay away from trouble. Jun Xia was not a person who had tender feelings for the fairer sex, not to mention risking his life. Of course, he would resolutely refuse, especially when it was a woman who was full of disgust for him. Even if this woman was as beautiful as a fairy, so what? Princess Ling Meng looked at Jun Mo Xia in astonishment. Based on her understanding of this third young master Jun, whenever he sees her, he will inevitably pester her with the words elder sister, younger sister. So, why is he being so easy to talk to today? This is truly a rare occurrence. However, he has retreated. Saving the two of them from falling out is a good thing. The princess shrunk back into the sedan chair and the pearl curtain was lowered again. Looking at it now, a hazy and infinitely beautiful figure was faintly discernible, like a dream. In the shadows, someone was speaking hurriedly. "Boss, that debauchee of the Jun family, Jun Moxie, has suddenly appeared here. What should we do? Should we wait for him to go over before we act, or..." A masked man was leaning on the roof, his eyes flashing with a golden light. "He came at the right time, we can't miss this opportunity." Chapter 58. Dispatching 2 silver-leveled Xian experts to deal with me. They really think highly of me. Jun Xia laughed bitterly in his heart. To dispatch such experts to deal with a debauchee, the mastermind behind this assassination was really generous. 2 gold-leveled experts, 7 silver-leveled experts, a total of 9 high-leveled Xian practitioners moving together. Dealing with a convoy that was defenseless and did not have any experts accompanying them, it was as easy as striking an egg with a rock. 2 long swords flashed with silver light as they fiercely stabbed down. The 2 pairs of eyes behind the mask were filled with cruelty and bloodlust. 1 strike for 1 kill. Facing the 2 thrusting swords, Jun Xia's mind flashed with dozens of ways to deal with them. But on second thought, these were just a few methods, and no matter which one he chose, he would expose himself. The emperor was completely at ease with the current Jun family. Although the Jun family had declined, Jun Wui's lower body was paralyzed, and Jun Moxie's debauchee was useless. This meant that they had no descendants. This meant that the old Jun Zhantian had no ambitions. That was why the emperor handed over the entire country's army to him. But if he discovered that Jun Moxie was a dragon among men, then the trust he had now would immediately turn into a huge suspicion. After all, Jun Zhantian's position in the army was too frightening. And now, if Jun Xia were to expose his strength to the princess's bodyguards, from a certain point of view, it would be equivalent to forcing the emperor to act against the Jun family. So, he couldn't. Jun Xia made a decision in a split second. Jun Xia's face was filled with panic as he hastily retreated. Suddenly, his feet seemed to have tripped over something, causing him to stumble backwards. Unintentionally or unintentionally, one of the swords brushed past his scalp. At the same time, he secretly circulated the art of unlocking heaven's fortune to protect his internal organs. With a forceful twist, the other sword pierced into his chest. It looked serious, but not even his bones were injured. The art of unlocking heaven's fortune circulated at full force. A thick white mist instantly filled Jun Xie's limbs and every meridian, rapidly repairing his body. It was at this moment that the other person's legs flew out, landing 2 kicks on Jun Xie's chest. Jun Xie grunted and spat out a mouthful of blood, falling down with his back facing the sky. He rolled on the ground, causing his white robes to become stained with blood. Then, he turned his body upside down and fell silently. The 2 assassins looked at each other, their expressions unchanged. Without a word, they rushed towards the besieged Princess Raimu. In their minds, Jun Moxie, the capital's most famous debauchee, had been stabbed in the chest with a sword, and then suffered a kick from a silver-leveled Xian Qi practitioner. His internal organs must have been destroyed, and there was no hope for him to survive. Therefore, the 2 of them did not even bother to look at him and turned around. The 2 of them did not notice that when the 2 kicks landed on Jun Xie's body, the clothes in front of Jun Xie's chest suddenly bulged strangely. Following that, the 2 kicks landed on his chest, and his clothes actually fluttered 5 to 6 times, dissipating most of the force. At present, Princess Ling Meng's imperial bodyguards were the most ordinary of the palace guards. Only the 2 leading them were strong, but they were only silver-leveled Xian experts. Caught off guard, they had to deal with the surprise attack of 2 gold-leveled experts and 7 silver-leveled experts. Thus, they were thrown into confusion. Although the rest of them had the advantage in numbers, they were not of much use. The strange thing was, ever since the black arrow was shot into the carriage, there was no sound from inside. It was unknown whether Princess Raimu was dead or alive. The guards in front of the carriage fell one by one. The 2 black-clothed masked men looked at each other, and at the same time, they stood up and flew into the air. Their bodies shone with a golden light, like eagles swooping down on a rabbit, and pounced towards the carriage. The guards turned pale with fright. They shouted and rushed forward without a care for their own safety. They wanted to risk their lives to stop them. But how could they stop 2 gold-level experts with their low Xian Qi cultivation? The difference in strength between the 2 sides was too great. Like a wave, they retreated to the sides, and the 2 black-clothed men quickly pounced on the roof of the carriage. 4 hands struck out, sword light flashed, and a burst of golden light exploded. The luxurious carriage was already torn into pieces, and the beautiful cloth fluttered in the air. Under the night sky, the golden and silver light shone, and there was a kind of sorrowful beauty. A black light flashed, and the black arrow that was shot into the carriage suddenly shot out from the carriage like a poisonous dragon, biting towards the bodies of the 2 black-clothed men who were still in midair. Sword light flashed and caw-caw sounds rang out as the arrows were cut down. At this moment, a graceful figure wrapped in a brilliant silver light suddenly flew out from the fluttering cloth in the sky. Princess Ling Meng's eyes were filled with resentment and unwillingness. She held a short sword in each hand, which shone with a cold light. Silver light shone brightly as she fiercely stabbed towards the 2 men in black. Princess Ling Meng's eyes were filled with hatred and unwillingness. This seemingly weak and slender princess was actually a silver-level Xian Qi cultivator. Unexpectedly, the princess was a martial arts genius at such a young age. Everyone present was an experienced and knowledgeable high-level Xian expert. Who could not see the intention of the invisible expert? At the moment when the 2 assassins in black attacked Princess Ling Meng, a figure dressed in blue opened his eyes from behind a dark eave on the other side of the street. His entire body flashed with a blue radiance as he was about to reveal himself. However, upon seeing the appearance of the flying daggers, his body suddenly trembled. Just as he was about to fly out, he suddenly stopped, his eyes filled with shock. The eyes of this blue-clothed person, however, were a faint blue color. That was the sign of a profound Sky Realm initial stage expert. Although he also belonged to a peak expert that stood above all living beings, when compared to the profound Sky Realm expert that shot out the flying dagger, he was still more than a little inferior. Behind their masks, the eyes of the 9 assassins were filled with terror. They were in a dilemma. Although they were assassins, they also cherished their lives. If there was a chance to fight, they would try their best. However, when faced with a situation where there was absolutely no chance of success, anyone would choose to retreat. On the other hand, the guards of Princess Raimu were all overjoyed and relieved. With these legendary figures protecting Princess Raimu, the princess was as stable as Mount Tai and would not be in danger. If the princess was really assassinated, even if they were lucky enough to keep their lives in the hands of these assassins, they would not be able to escape the investigation of the imperial family. The moment Princess Ling Meng opened her eyes, she saw this scene. Looking at the small flying dagger on the ground, her eyes could not help but reveal a look of gratitude. If not for the miraculous appearance of this flying dagger, she would have been dead by now. Which senior is here? What instructions do you have for me? Please show yourself. The leader of the black-robed masked man straightened his body and cupped his hands towards the sky. His tone was respectful, but in reality, he was just playing dumb. He pretended not to understand the intentions of the person in the dark and tried to sound him out. After all, if this assassination was fruitless, they might not have a good ending when they returned. Holding on to the possibility of success, they still had to try. If it was confirmed that the Tian Xian expert in the dark really wanted to protect Princess Raimu, they would not have any hope of completing their mission even if they were to be buried here. At that time, the only option left was to retreat. However, even if Raimu was the princess of a country and the most beloved daughter of the Emperor of Tian Xiang, she did not seem to be worthy of having a Tian Xian expert as her bodyguard. Such a bodyguard was more than enough even for the Emperor of Tian Xiang. The long street was silent and there was not a single sound. What kind of cultivation did he need? At least according to the knowledge of this Tian Xian expert, not to mention himself, even those at the peak of Tian Xian or even those at the middle level of supreme martial artist Xin Xian might not be able to do it. Could it be that this mysterious expert was actually so brilliant? Could it be that he was actually a peak expert like the supreme martial artist Xin Xian? Wouldn't that make him invincible? That was a figure that belonged to myths and legends. Oh my God! Thinking of how he, a mere junior Tian Xian expert, had rashly tried to probe such a powerful existence, this Tian Xian expert couldn't help but sweat profusely. Although he couldn't detect the other party, this godlike existence must have found him. If the other party had released his divine sense just now and attacked his probing divine sense head-on, then it wouldn't have been difficult for him to crush all his thoughts. In that case, there was no doubt that he would have been an idiot now. Fear, how long had it been since he had felt this way? But at this moment, this Tian Xian expert couldn't help but feel a heartfelt fear in his heart. His eyes were filled with gratitude, and he silently bowed to the sky with a respectful attitude, as if he had seen the last disciple of his ancestor. He knew that the other party must have sensed it and seen it. How could he know that the existence of the supreme martial artist Xin Xian expert, who had already risen to the level of the supreme martial artist, was now lying on the ground like a dead dog, not moving at all? As for the fact that he couldn't sense the powerful, divine sense, this was also reasonable. This supreme martial artist Xin Xian expert, who was like a dead dog right now, had a Xian Qi divine sense that was not even comparable to a silver-level Xian Qi expert. It seemed to be really too insignificant. Although that Tian Xian expert had sensed it, he had completely ignored it. It was really too weak, of course. Why did this supreme martial artist Xin Xian expert want to use Tian Xian's cultivation to intimidate these killers? This was also something that could be easily explained. After reaching the level of supreme martial artist Shen Xian expert, the light of Xian Qi would return to its original state, completely concealing itself without any color. If he used his true level to attack, these killers might not be able to recognize it, and wouldn't that be bad? At that time, he would definitely need to take action personally to kill those ants, and that would be too shameful of his identity. And the azure sea sky of Tian Xian's peak was the highest cultivation that could be externally reflected by the light of Xian Qi. Even ordinary people who had not practiced Xian Qi could see it at a glance. From this, it could be seen that this senior was really careful and compassionate, and his intentions were really too good. Milk has been changed, sweat. Yi Guhan was now sure that the mysterious expert hiding in the dark would not make a move. However, he would not let these assassins leave, so he showed himself. Anyone who wanted to hurt Princess Raimu, no matter who they were, would be killed without mercy in Yi Guhan's eyes. He slowly turned around and drew his sword. The slender body of the sword shook like a snake, and the blue sword light rippled. The tip of the sword was slowly raised, pointing at the 9 assassins. Yi Guhan's face was cold. Die! The 9 assassins were speechless. Previously, we kept asking Senior if he had any other instructions, just to test you. However, you did not say anything, and when we were about to leave, you came out to stop us. Isn't it obvious that you're playing with us? Of course, they didn't know that everything was wrong because the targets were 2 different people. Yi Guhan. If you want to kill someone, you need to use your sword, not your mouth. The more the 2 assassins thought about it, the angrier they got. Even if your martial arts is much higher than ours, you shouldn't play with us like this. Knowing that they were doomed, they became more courageous and actually mocked him. Yi Guhan's expression did not change. He was still as cold as ice, and his gaze was as dense as an arrow. His body was as straight as a pine tree. His heart was ruthless, and the sword light became even colder. Suddenly, a light blue sword light exploded like fireworks, enveloping the surroundings and spreading out. He had actually agreed to the assassin's request to use his sword to kill. There was no need to waste his breath. Talking nonsense with someone who was about to die was undoubtedly a very stupid move. The sword light was splendid. It had a beautiful pale blue luster to it. The sword was brandished, and gave off a dreamlike feeling. However, this wonderful luster was mixed with a strong feeling of heartbreak. The awe-inspiring sword light was as desolate and bleak as Yi Guhan's face at this moment. Yi Guhan turned around, leaned forward, and swung his sword. The throat of the silver Xian assassin closest to him had an astonishingly fresh cut. Blood spurted out like a mist, merging with the pale blue sword shadows that filled the air. Red and blue contrasted with each other, creating a heart-wrenching beauty in this scene of slaughter. Once the sword strikes, where can one find a bosom friend? Lonely, the assassin's corpse slowly fell to the ground. Yi Guhan's lonely figure had already appeared between the other 2 assassins. These assassins, who had been insufferably awe-inspiring just a moment ago, were now like clay chickens and pottery dogs in front of him, unable to withstand a single blow. Just like how a silver-level expert could view a 9th-level expert as an ant, a Tian Xian expert could also view a gold and silver-level expert as child's play. 2 streaks of blood shot out one after the other. At this moment, he discovered that the escaping leader of the assassins was coincidentally flying towards him in a sorry state. Jun Xie's heart was filled with killing intent. Motherfucker, you brought people to make me look like this, and you want to just walk away like that? How could there be such a good thing? With a flick of his wrist, a flying dagger appeared in his hand. Jun Xie hid his face under his body and laughed sinisterly. Go to hell, kid. The worst thing was that even though this guy was dead, his long sword was still in his hand. Fucking unrepentant even in death. Jun Xia cursed in his heart. He desperately moved his body and leaped forward, narrowly avoiding a vital point. Peng! The corpse of the assassin leader accurately fell on top of Jun Xia's small body. With a ka-chi sound, the sword in his hand was still pierced into Jun Xia's thigh where there was the most meat. If the sword had been slightly more to the left, Jun Xia would have gloriously become a professional in the imperial palace. Hu, hiss. Jun Xia had already let out a hu sound from the collision, almost unable to breathe. Next, the long sword stabbed into his leg, causing him to hiss out in pain. The last word he uttered out was the young master Jun cursing out. Who would have thought that a dead person could actually wield a sword to injure others? This world is really too fucking strange. The sword had penetrated deep into Jun Xia's flesh, and had pierced deep into the soil. Any movement would cause a bigger wound, and it might even cut his tendons. Under such circumstances, Jun Xia naturally could not move, and since the assassin leader was already dead, it was even more impossible for him to move. The two of them were stacked on top of each other like a human pyramid. The assassin's hand was still holding onto the hilt of the sword, and the blade was still stuck in Jun Xia's body. Such a position was indescribably strange. Fucking hell. Jun Xia wanted to cry but had no tears. This is the second time I've been pressed down by a man since I came to this world. The first time, although that damn fatty was disgusting, he was still a living person. This time, he was pressed down by a dead man, and could not move, a living man, and a dead man. The two faces were stuck together, and the four eyes actually met. Only then did Jun Xia realize that this guy actually died with his eyes wide open. Out of curiosity, Jun Xia observed carefully. The more he looked, the stranger he felt. This guy's eyes were not filled with hatred, nor was it resentment. Instead, it seemed to be doubt and confusion. Fucking hell, can't you find the way to the Yellow Springs? Don't look at me like that, I don't know either. Jun Xia cursed angrily. If an ordinary person was pressed down by a dead man and stared at, even the most courageous person would be frightened out of his wits and tremble with fear. However, this freak Jun Xia actually dared to chat with a dead man. One could not help but say that he was powerful. With a clap, Yi Guhan knocked the sword out of the other assassin leader's hand. With a flash of light blue light, the sword was already on the assassin leader's neck. Who sent you? Speak. Yi Guhan was furious. If he did not uncover the mastermind behind the scenes, who knew if this kind of thing would happen again in the future? Silly Meng, Uncle Yi will always be by your side. Yi Guhan deeply sighed in his heart and softly said, I will come to see little Meng, An assassin escaped before, so there might be some trouble in the future. So, little Meng, must be careful in the near future. Princess Raimo softly uttered an N sound. Her expression showed that she was very reluctant to part with him. The sound of horse hooves had already reached the end of the street. Yi Guhan's body rose up, and he rushed out. But, he suddenly exclaimed in midair, and changed his direction. He rushed over from Jun Xia's side. His sharp eyes swept around, and he saw the small throwing knife in the throat of the assassin who had fallen on Jun Xia's body. He couldn't help but feel grateful in his heart. It turns out that this senior has already taken care of this trouble for me. I'm really ashamed. He didn't stay any longer, and lightly flew up to the eaves. With a flash of blue light, he suddenly disappeared. At the end of the street, a strong horse galloped in, and a young officer in blue rushed over with an anxious face. Seeing that Princess Raimo was standing there, he breathed a sigh of relief, and hurriedly saluted, Your Highness, are you all right? The concern in his words was obvious. Princess Raimo looked at him blankly. She slightly bent down, and picked up the two throwing knives on the ground. She carefully looked at them. The throwing knives were as thin as cicadas' wings, small and exquisite, with a subtle arc and beautiful lines. Princess Raimu fell in love with them at first sight. Her jade-like face couldn't help but show a slight excitement. This is the magical weapon used by the master that even Uncle Yi is ashamed of his inferiority. What a lovely knife. This knife? The young man asked in a low voice. Princess, you still need to be careful of such a lethal weapon. If it wasn't for the master who released the throwing knives, I would have already died in the hands of the assassins. How could I wait until now for you to come and rescue me? Naturally, the existence of Yi Guhan couldn't be known by unrelated people. Princess Ling Meng gave him an indifferent look, a trace of weariness and a touch of sadness appearing on her pretty face. In the past, when she left the palace, she would at least have a jade-level master by her side, and that was personally arranged by her father, the emperor. Why was she sent out to do something this time? And a few elite gold-level masters in the guards were also transferred for some reason, and it was at such a time when she came out that she encountered the assassins. All of this, what does it mean? It goes without saying. Princess Raimu was extremely intelligent, and she already knew it, but she tried hard not to think about it. She really didn't want to think about it, and she also didn't dare to think about it, because the result would really make her heart ache. It was really painful, it was heart-wrenching. It's fine if you guys fight for the throne, but why do you also treat me as a tool of war? It's just a mere throne, is it really that important? Could it be that in your eyes, I can only be a tool to frame others for your own benefit? Although we are not siblings, we are still the same father, and the blood is thicker than water. Why? Why? Could it be that there are no blood relatives in the royal family? Princess Ling Meng could feel the cold aura emanating from the two flying daggers as they made contact with her skin. However, Princess Ling Meng felt a great sense of warmth and security. This mysterious Sky Xian expert had saved his life. And he had almost wasted that man's help. But he hadn't punished him in the slightest, even though he was a top-notch expert. Princess Ling Meng couldn't help but yearn for his open-mindedness. Although Yi Guhan knew that the strength of this mysterious person was far beyond Tian Xian's cultivation, Raimu still didn't know. She only saw the elegant light that was as blue as the sea and sky. Invisibly, he saved people's lives, came floating, and left floating. Before and after, there was no trace to be found, and he didn't care about other people's repayment. He didn't even care about the ignorance of the people who were saved. What a broad-mindedness. This was a true expert and refined scholar. The heartbroken Princess Raimu developed a strong dependence on this mysterious Tian Xian master at the most frustrating moment. In her heart, she suddenly felt that this mysterious person, like Uncle Yi, was also worthy of her trust. With the throwing knives in her arms, Princess Raimu suddenly felt full of courage. Yes, no matter who it was, with the protection of such a top master of Tian Xian level and the lonely star Yi Guhan, she could sleep at ease. When she came back to her senses, she found that the young man was still looking at her blankly. A trace of anger flashed on Princess Raimu's face. She angrily glared at him, feeling extremely vexed. This person was the eldest son of the Murong family in the city, Murong Qianjun. He was also the rising star of the Murong family, the mother of her mother. In terms of kinship, he could be considered as Princess Raimu's cousin. He was also a very famous young talent in the city. Ever since he met Princess Raimu, he was immediately infatuated with her. He begged his family to get him a position as the leader of the Imperial Guards, hoping that he would be able to enjoy the moonlight first. Thus, he began to crazily pursue Princess Raimu. Ever since Jun Moxie quietly withdrew in the past 2 months, Murong Qianjun was one of the 2 most promising suitors of Princess Raimu. As for the other one, it was the eldest grandson of the imperial tutor, Li Yuran. Last night's strong wind blew and cut the optical fiber. We can't get online in this area. We are now in an internet cafe in the city, so the update is late. Chapter 64. Anyone who looked at him would feel that this young Master Murong was extraordinary in both literature and martial arts. His appearance was elegant, his demeanor was elegant, and his martial arts were high. He was indeed an excellent match for a woman. However, Princess Ling Meng felt that this person was very hypocritical. In front of her, he would always put on a mask of deep affection. She had been living in the palace for a long time, yet she was unable to judge how much of this deep affection he had for her was real. How much of it was fake? What was this man's true face and true temperament? Princess Raimu felt that she really didn't have the slightest bit of confidence. As for the other suitor, Li Yuran, the first heir of the Li family, and also the #1 scholar of the Tianxiang Empire, Princess Raimu couldn't fathom him. Li Yuran's character was elegant, and he had a natural and unrestrained temperament. Countless young ladies in the capital were infatuated with him. However, he had walked among thousands of flowers, and not a single leaf had landed on his body. He had the reputation of being the most refined gentleman in the Tianxiang Empire. Li Yuran was always cultured and refined. He was neither hurried nor slow, neither hurried nor slow. It was as if everything in the world was within his expectations and under his control. He was good at using money and power, and had an elegant demeanor. However, Princess Raimu always felt that there couldn't be such a perfect person in this world. If this person's external appearance was all a disguise, then wouldn't he be even more frightening? Wouldn't he be even more unfathomable? Because no one would be able to understand his true thoughts. When she was with Li Yuran, Princess Raimu often felt an inexplicable fear in her heart. She felt that this gentle young man in front of her was extremely dangerous. In contrast, the original Jun Moxie, although he had a slippery appearance, and didn't conceal his intentions in the slightest. He was obviously a hooligan, and I'm not afraid that you can see through me. Although his character was indeed a bit unbearable, but he was also bad in the open. Even if he was a bad guy, he was open and aboveboard. At least there was no need to worry about him secretly playing dirty tricks. When he thought of Jun Moxie, he suddenly remembered that this hedonistic playboy was here just a moment ago. He seemed to have reminded him. Whether it was intentional or not, it was still out of kindness. However, the assassin seemed to have killed him as soon as he appeared. Thinking of this, he hastily said, "You guys quickly look for the third young Master Jun. See how he is." His heart could not help but feel anxious. Although he was lucky enough to be saved, Jun Moxie might have already been killed.